Hey, what's up everyone? It's Mark, and we're in the garage. I'm working on my 2022 Slayer Max 12.5, and I recently did this BerleyPro steering upgrade. So I replaced all the factory components, and everything is all BerleyPro. And I wanted to kind of just share some feedback, what kind of changes by doing this install. So if you're on the fence about doing it, you just want to really kind of see someone else do it, I think this will be a good video because not a lot of people have really kind of documented this. So I'm hoping this helps somebody out. And if it does, give me a like, subscribe, whatever. But let's get into it. So the stock unit here is it's all plastic, and I think that's one of the things that you'll see if you research or talk to people, is that a lot of people say that this is a must upgrade. And honestly, I kind of agree. So I'm fishing as much as I can from my kayak, and I compete, and the kayak fishing is something that I do as much as I can. So what I've kind of saw in the factory one here is that it's all plastic. It's got a lot of play in it, and the cabling also from the factory has a lot of play. It has a lot of stretch and stuff in there, and to me it feels like something that, like a cable I could pop. And this also feels like a handle, like I could not only break in one place but possibly break in multiple places, such as this horizontal handlebar, the shaft, and then also I could see some slippage or breakage in here as well. So this was something that I would say and would agree with everyone, is that it is a must upgrade. Now, I've done a complete steering upgrade, and one of the biggest differences you'll see is actually it comes into play with this steering disc. So from the factory, the cable runs kind of mount to where those silver dots are. Like, so if this was a clock face about 11 and 1 o'clock, you see there's dots there. That dictates like the left and the right steering. And what happens there, like from the factory, if you're not familiar with this kayak, many of you guys are, but bear with me here because I only got one hand, is that your turning essentially is kind of like in this motion here. And then when you get to about here, it kind of just locks up, and you feel like your cable's stretching, you feel like you could pop a cable. And that's kind of like the range of motion that you really just get on this disc. Now, the range of motion that you get on the handle is not the same that you get on the rudder. And that's with both cases, with the BerleyPro upgrade and this. So for example, while the handle can kind of turn, a little bit past 90 degrees each way, your rudder is really only turning about 50 degrees each way, a little bit past 45. Now, the BerleyPro upgrade, if you were looking at the disc, and I apologize that I didn't have this open or captured it before, it has the mounting points more like 3 and 9 o'clock. So what happens is that with the cables in there, when you go to turn, you're opening up a lot more range of motion. And as I was kind of showing this as an example, you can kind of see the range of motion that now I have. So like previously, like with the factory, you kind of be like locked here, but here's what kind of happens now is now I can go back here, and vice versa, I can come all the way around and go back here. Now this extra movement here results in the rudder being able to kind of turn a full 90 degrees each way. So I'll kind of show you what I mean. So as we did a full 180 here, you can see on the BerleyPro disc that now the rudder is almost like a true 90 degrees. So, and I have the springblade rudder on here, so that is a huge upgrade. Now, some of the stuff that could be a little bit different for a person here is that when you do this upgrade, if you're on the water with the factory one, you might find yourself kind of just, it's real responsive, right? A little bit of movement goes a long way in kind of the stock one. But to that point, you're always kind of like on the handle, right? You're like always kind of just doing like these little adjustments to kind of keep your boat tracking. what kind of changes with this one is that by having that extra range of motion in which you move the handle, it's kind of elongated the responsiveness. So it's still pretty responsive, but like this might have resulted in like 45-degree turn on the stock one, and maybe right now like the rudder is at like 30 degrees, and that kind of corresponds back here. So we're like 45 on the handle, but we're like 30 here. Like this would have been a smaller movement on the stock one for sure. And that's one of the things that, you know, it kind of starts to drive like a true boat, you know, where you turn the steering wheel multiple times and you get very little movement. So it kind of takes a lot of that aggressiveness out of it, but it's really in a good way, in my opinion, because now you're not doing these little movements all day. You're just kind of moving it, and to me it just seems like I'm not holding the handle as much. So another benefit there. So I would recommend that for sure. Definitely the handle, definitely the steering disc, and definitely the lines. So I'll kind of talk about the lines a little bit. So the factory lines are this here. I got a spring blade rudder install. That's something I'll also recommend. I'll kind of touch on that a little bit, I think, too. But the lines that come in the factory ones, these have a lot of stretch, like I was saying. The ones that are in the BerleyPro upgrade, you can see that they are thicker diameter than the stock ones. But furthermore, these have like a 650, 700 pound brake strength. Like it would take a lot to break these. And being like a braided line, as this is more like a mesh, to me it just seems like there's very low chance of ever breaking this on the water and kind of having those pop. So that was something that, you know, brought me peace of mind. And it also takes a lot of the play out. Like there was not a lot of stretch in these lines, even from day one while you're breaking them in, quote unquote. So I would definitely recommend that. Now let's talk about the spring blade rudder a little bit. So from the factory, and I have one here, this is my factory rudder, and this is the factory steering plate that you would get. So when you get the spring blade rudder kit, you'll see that one of the things that I would say is the factory one, even this has play. Like I got the rudder inserted, and I'm moving the rudder right now, and the cap's not even moving. So like there's a lot of play in here. So BerleyPro made this cap here, and this has these 4 bolts, and what it does is it has a way to kind of clamp this rudder specifically to eliminate play that this one would have. So in my humble opinion, if you're doing the spring blade rudder install, you don't need this one. But if you were just staying with the factory rudder, which I don't know why you would, this would be an upgrade for sure, because this would have it there. But when you buy the spring blade rudder kit, you'll notice that it's a lot smaller, so that takes out a lot of that play that you're seeing. But also the spring blade rudder itself is smaller than this point here. So like, for example, this will not fit into there. But the spring blade rudder itself is a lot tighter. And this BerleyPro plate can accommodate the spring blade rudder pretty good too, and take out a lot of that play. But I would say save the money. This is aluminum, this is plastic, but this is every bit just as good as that. And if you do the line upgrade, the steering upgrades in the front, you know, there's no reason why not to go with this. But let's talk about the spring blade rudder itself. So bear with me, I don't have a good angle here, but because it's on a trailer, but it is spring loaded. And one of the tips I would say is, like, if you can, like when you're storing it, I would just kind of keep the rudder down, because it kind of takes tension off of the spring. So like the spring loading kind of works a lot better. Like if you keep it bunched up all the time, you're keeping your spring coiled, and you know, not like that's a bad thing, but in my opinion, I just feel like it works a lot better. Like when you're on the water and you have more resistance to kind of keep it down. Now on the water, you know, the factory one would kind of just be up high. With this one being down lower, you're going to get a lot more water displacement, and with the extra turning that you get from the BerleyPro handle, this thing is like super responsive. And you know, on the river, like, it kicks up if you run into anything. And it's very durable. Like, you know, I've ran it down the Susquehanna River, and we're running shallow on the river right now. So, and it does great. So I would recommend that. Now, another thing that's really good about this is that when it's down, it operates as a skeg, meaning that if you're floating and just drifting, you know, you're not pedaling. And really handy if you can't put your pedal drive down, you can use this to kind of position your kayak and hold a line a lot tighter. And it's really handy when you're floating in particular. So definitely would recommend it for that. And I think it's a must, because it really does do quite a bit for the steering, the aggressiveness, and just the overall efficiency in turning. So 100% would recommend. Native did a great job on the mounting plate with it. Saved the money. I would just use that, knowing what I know now. And just a quick tip on this install. Sometimes people have issues with this binding up, and it's all due to where this hole is drilled. 9 times out of 10, it's something with this hole right here. So what I would tell you is that when you go to do your install, and this isn't an install video, put the plate in, mark the area that you're going to drill, because a lot of the people that have the issue have drilled that hole so low into this recess that the cable is running over this disc, and it kind of binds right here on the lip. And then they're forced to kind of shave or grind this lip a little bit with a Dremel so they don't have that pinching there, because they've just drilled a hole in their kayak and they can't move this up anymore now, because then it's resulting in a bigger hole and a different grommet or whatever. So take your time on it, put this disc in, mark it, and then make sure that hole is drilled up a lot higher. So I didn't run into that issue. Other people, unfortunately, have ran into it before I did. I'm not sure if I would have put the disc in. I might have, you know, who knows. But knowing what we know now, take your time, drill that hole up high. You won't have any issue here. Like I was saying, I would leave the spring blade down, undeployed, when you're storing it, if you can. And then when you get ready to take off, just pull it up, and you'll be good to go. So, okay guys, so it was kind of a longer video, and you know, just kind of nerding out about some of these mods here, but hopefully this helps you out. Maybe it helped you make a decision, maybe it helped you with some troubleshooting or whatever. And leave me a comment below if you have a question, and if this video helped you out, you know, give me a like, give me a subscribe. I just got the 2022 Slayer Max. I sold my Bonafide, and I'm really excited to mod this one out. So we're just kind of starting with this, and then I'll do a walkthrough shortly, and eventually we'll get a motor on this too. So there will be a lot coming up for this, so stay tuned. Thanks.